Hello students, I think everybody is fine and taking care of your health. Today, as you can see on the screen, we are going to study the plant tissue. And before we begin the topic, I hope you should all know that what is a tissue. So write down the definition for tissues. So they are the group of cells. So they are the group of cells, make sure, which have similar in origin, write on all the points, similar in origin, shape and structure. So similar in origin, shape and structure. Underline all these words. So these are the groups of cell which are similar in origin, shape and structure and which work together, they all work together to perform a common function, okay, to perform common function. So again I repeat the whole definition. So tissues are the group of cells similar in origin, shape and structure, and they work together to perform a common function. And you also should know the branch of science or biology that deals with the study of tissue are called or is called histology, okay, histology. So in last video you have seen the word or heard the word cytology. Now this time we are going to hear the word histology. So here we study about tissues and their functions. So since we are going to study about plant tissue today, so plant tissue generally are dead. So they are basically dead and provide mechanical support to the plant, okay, and they provide mechanical support. So generally they are dead and they perform mechanical support to the plant body, and depending upon their capacity, dividing capacity, so plant tissues are classified as, so depending upon their dividing capacity, so they are classified as write down this word, meristematic tissue and permanent tissue, okay, meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. So we will take these two terms as we proceed in the tutorial, okay. So before we take these meristematic tissue and permanent tissue, there is one word that you should be knowing about called differentiation. So write down this word, differentiation. So normally we ask you what is differentiation. So write it down. So it is the process by which the cell lose the ability, the cells lose. So cells, write it down properly, cell lose the ability, differentiation process in which the cell lose its ability. So ability, the cell loses the ability to divide, it loses the ability to divide, okay, acquire permanent shape and size, and start performing specific functions, okay. So this word differentiation means when the cell loses the ability to divide and they perform specific functions is referred as differentiation. Now as we know this particular table, you should know the flow chart of it. So I will prefer that after this tutorial you should draw them properly in the respective notes copies. So the plant tissue is basically divided into two parts. I have just told you, one is meristematic tissue, other is permanent tissue. So the meristematic tissue is further divided into sub parts depending upon their locations. So First one is called apical meristem. Write it down. The meristematic tissue is further divided into three parts. So, one is called apical meristem, and it is found in the growing tips of root, stem and young leaves. Okay, found in growing tips. So, write it down. It found in growing tips of roots, stem and young leaves. Okay, write it down. Young leaves. So, these are apical meristem. First part of the meristematic tissue, call it. The second part is called intercalary. Okay, intercalary meristem. Okay. So, this particular part of the meristematic tissue is found at the base of the leaves and internodes. Base of leaves and internodes. So, write it down properly. They are found at the base of the leaves and internodes, and it increases the length of the branches. So, this tissue basically increases the length of the branches. Okay, intercalary. And the third one is called lateral meristem. Lateral meristem. So, first one was, I have just told you, apical meristem, second is intercalary and third is lateral meristem. So, it is found as cambium. So, we will study about vascular bundle, then I will let you know what it is. For the time being, just write, is found as cambium in vascular bundles. Okay, in vascular bundles. And the main function for this tissue, write it down, main function for this tissue is to increase the diameter, increase the diameter and girth, girth, diameter and girth of plants. Okay, diameter and girth of plants. So, make sure write down the whole parts with the function. Now, come for the just illustration for permanent tissue. So, permanent tissue is further divided into two types, two parts. One is simple permanent tissue, other is complex permanent tissue. So, in case of simple permanent tissue, we have again subparts. One is epidermis, then is parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. Okay. And this parenchyma is further have sub two parts. One is chlorenchyma, other is arenchyma. Write it down. And thereafter arenchyma, make sure the second part is arenchyma, first was chlorenchyma. Okay. And then the second half is called the complex tissue. It consists of xylem and phloem, and further they have lot many parts. So, we will do it as we move into them as the other presentation comes in. Now, this is just a flow chart to let you know what we are going to read now. Now, beginning with the stuff that we are going to study now, in particular called meristematic tissue. So, make sure write down these terms. So, this tissue is undifferentiated tissue, and it is basically having actively dividing cells, and as I have told you the types, apical meristem, lateral meristem and of course, the intercalary meristem. So, I have just told you the where the apical meristem is found and what it function do. Similarly, lateral meristematic tissue. So, as I have told you, they make the plant grow thicker. So, they basically occur in woody trees and plants. So, this type terms we already have let you know it. So, just you pause the screenshot and you can write it down regarding meristem or meristematic tissue. Now, this part of this topic that you are going to study now, let you know that basically how the structural and function part of this tissue governs in. So, in case of meristematic tissue, the cells are, underline the whole this term, they are small, spherical and polygonal. Small, spherical and polygonal, and the function, it allows for the close packing of large number of cells. So, here the cells are tightly packed. Then the vacuoles are very small and completely absent more or less, and the vacuoles provide turgidity to cells and thus prevent rapid division. So, write down these terms as their point of reference, and further these tissue have large amount of cytoplasm and they have a very large nucleus, and due to this the lack of organelles is the feature of this undifferentiated cell. A large amount of nuclear material contains DNA, which is necessary for division and differentiation. So, write it down these terms about the functions, the cell structure, the location and the function they perform it. So, after coming from the various types of meristematic tissue, now we move into the second topic called permanent tissue. As I have told you, this permanent tissue is further divided into two parts. So, one is the simple permanent tissue. So, we will take them one by one. So, epidermal or epidermis, then parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. So, basically we are moved to these 3 or 4 terms, and we will take about complex tissue in the next tutorial. Okay. Now, let us see one by one as we move into the topic of simple permanent tissue. So, in this simple permanent tissue, first one was or is the epidermal tissue, part 1. So, here the structure, the layer of cells covering the surface of the entire plant. Okay. So, they cover approximately the whole part of the plant body, and they act as a barrier for the other pathogens like fungi when they and other microbes and pathogens. So, they also act as a protective stuff, and then they have a layer is thin and transparent, and as a result they allow for light to pass through and thereby allowing for the process which the plant perform called photosynthesis. Then the epidermal tissue have abundant structure called trichomes, and these are the, you might have seen in the first slide show here. So, these trichomes make sure which are hairy structure projecting from the surface of epidermis, and these trichomes are abundant in the leaf surface, okay, plant leaves, and the leaf trichomes trap water in the area above the stomata and prevent water loss. So, sometime in examination we do ask you that state the function of trichomes and where they are available. So, again write them down as you see the slides after pausing the stuff when you want to write the whole illustration. Then this whole epidermal tissue further have got lot of subparts here. The root hairs are elongation of epidermal cells in the root. So, they have a root hairs, and these root hairs underline the function for that. They maximize the surface area for the absorption of water from the soil. So, the root hair increases the SA surface area and then absorption takes place. Then the epidermal tissue in leaves are covered with a waxy substance called cuticle, and this waxy outer layer of the epidermis prevent the water loss. So, underline the word 2, one is cuticle, other the function. So, it prevents the water loss, and then of course, this tissue contain guard cells, and these guard cells control the opening and closing of stomata, the function that will be again taken up in detail. So, first of all you should know these guard cells and what the function they perform. And some plant epidermal cells are secrete the toxic bad tasting substances. So, these basically substance act as a substance act for the bitter taste as the taste are. So, they are basically preventing the plant from grazing animals. So, it is act as a, you can call the structures which prevent the plant from eating up by the grazing animals. So, you can see plants also have their protective network. So, these are some of the topics under epidermal cells. Okay. Now, move into the guard cell and stomata that I have told you. So, the guard cell and stomata, they are the openings, and basically write it down in proper sense, because sometimes we do ask you the function of it and how it is performed. So, the guard cells and the stomata in particular. So, there is a word called stoma. So, stoma is the opening, okay, through which the gas exchange takes place. and it is bordered by guard cells. And the guard cells are generally found mainly on the lower surface of the leaves, underline the word, and responsible for the opening and closing of stoma. So, underline the three terms, one is stoma, other is guard cell, and third is stomata. So, they all are different terms. Okay? And the stomata in the epidermals allows the entry of oxygen, carbon dioxide and water, and all these things are required by the chloroplast for the process of photosynthesis. And depending upon something called turgor pressure that we will take up in the different topic, which enable the guard cells to move up, to close and open up. And there is again you have one new word for you called potential difference, that basically help in the working of guard cells, because as the guard cell open out and closes in, the whole process takes place regarding the working of stomatal pores present in the stomata. Thereafter, we have got the parenchymatous tissue, the first among the three main types. So, underline this data. The this tissue called parenchymatous tissue form in majority of stem and roots, as well as in some fruits. Okay, soft fruits like tomatoes. So, they are basically consisting, and the grapes consisting of this tissue. And it is the most common type of ground tissue, and is underline the word main function. It is basically responsible for storage of nutrients. And please check out the diagrams from your textbook for this parenchymatous, collenchymatous and sclerenchymatous tissue for your further reference. And now come into the structure part of it. So, these will be act as a detailed note for this tissue, as well as you can use them as a differentiation between the parenchymatous, sclerenchymatous and collenchymatous tissues. Okay. So, in case of parenchyma, so they have the thin cell walls, and thin walls allow for the close packing and the rapid diffusion between the cells. Okay. Thin packing and rapid diffusion. Then of course, the second part you can see it basically. So, the intercellular spaces are present between them, and they allow the diffusion for the gases. Then the cells have got large vacuole, which allow the cells to store, underline the two words, store and regulate ions and waste product and water. So, put this point in your reference. Okay. Then third one, they have got a specialized parenchyma cells we have called collenchyma. Okay, found in the plant leaves, and these allows them to perform the function of photosynthesis, and they are also responsible for starch storage. Okay. And the one word that I have used earlier is called parenchyma. So, in parenchyma, so they trap air and help in the buoyancy. Okay. So, allow the plant to float in case of aquatic plants. So, parenchyma, which give it a buoyancy, upward lift for the leaves to float when they are growing in aquatic habitat or in water body. Then you continue with the others. Some of the parenchyma cells retain the ability to divide, and they allow the replacement of damaged cells. So, when the cells get damaged, then these cells take place of them and perform the function. So, you can see in detail that all function is zone of this parenchymatous tissue. Then comes the second one called collenchyma, and this collenchyma is again I have told you simple permanent tissue found in the shoots and the leaves of the plant. They have again thin wall, but feature is that they have the corners of the cell wall are thickened with, underline the chemical called cellulose, and the tissue gives strength, underline the word, gives strength, particularly to shoots and leaves due to thickening of the corners. So, underline these features of collenchymatous tissue. Then finally, again move into the structure of the cellular function. The cells are spherical here, oval and polygonal, underline the word, and with, underline the new term, no intercellular space, there. As a result, they are close packing tissue and basically provide structural support. And corner of the cell walls are thickened with cellulose, we have just told you, and pectin, underline the new word, pectin deposits. Why? Because to provide mechanical support. to provide mechanical support. And then the cells are thin walled on both sides, on most of the sides. Why? Because again they provide flexibility and allow plant to bend in the wind, so that with the wind they should not break up. So, in order to give that property, the collenchymatous cell have these special features. So, these things please make sure that you write it down and then study them in the slide stuff. Now, the third one of the simple permanent tissue is called sclerenchymus or sclerenchymatous tissue. So, again it is a supporting tissue in plants and make the cell wall plant hard and stiff. So, it has of two types of cell, one is called fiber, this is called sclerids, and these two terms sclerid and fiber further make sure you should know it. The sclerenchyma fibers, they are the long and narrow and have thick lignified walls. Underline the word thick lignified walls, okay, and they provide mechanical support and they also help in the conduction of water. While in case of the sclerids, underline the word, so they are specialized sclerenchymatous cells, and in this particular stuff they are thickened, highly lignified walls, underline some terms, and with pits through running through the walls, and they again support the soft tissue inside, and examples are there for guava and are found in the shells of some nuts also. So, these are some terms which are specific to sclerids. So, please write it down properly, read them and study them. So, that was regarding the sclerenchymatous tissues and cells. Then as far as the structure comes into the scene, so underline the terms. So, here the cells are dead and have lignified secondary walls, okay, the cells are dead and they provide mechanical support and strength, and the lignin provide the wire like strength, okay, underline the word lignin provide the wire like strength to prevent from tearing. So, they act as a preventive stuff. And then number 2, sclerids have strong walls which is filled with the entire volume of the cell. So, they basically fill the entire volume of the cell. Why? Because they give the hardness to the fruit like pears, and these structures are used to protect other cells. So, basically their function is protective in nature. So, again when you pause the video and read the data, please write it down in your respective zone. So, throughout this particular presentation you have seen we have used some of the terms, okay. So, underline these particular definition terms that and then copy it down. First is what is cork. So, underline it. So, they are the dead protective tissue between the bark and cambium in woody plants with, underline the new word, suberin deposits making it impervious to gas and water. So, basically they are the dead protective tissue and they act as an impervious zone for water and gases to enter in. So, that is basically for the cork. And then we also have used lot many terms in this particular presentation, so called cutin and suberin, okay, cutin and suberin. Underline it out. They are the cell wall associated with, underline the new term for them. So, they are associated with glycerin and lipids. So, it is called glycerolipid polymers which are specific to plant, okay, specific to plant, and cutin forms the framework of the cuticle sealing the aerial epidermal, okay. So, they form a framework of the cuticle sealing, while suberin is present in the, underline the word, periderm, a part of the stuff of bark and underground the underground organs of the plant. So, underline both the terms suberin and cutin. I hope the things will be cleared up, and make sure read them in and write down the note as we read the whole data. So, further we can also differentiate suberin. You should know they are a waxy substance found in the cell wall of the higher plants, and lignin is a hard substance with great, underline the word, tensile, having the great tensile and comprehensive strength, and that means that, underline the word, it does not break and deform easily. So, it is just like wax and it is water repellent present on surface of the plants. So, all these terms which I have just seen you in the photo shot, please go through them properly again and again, because they are the terms mentioned in your book. So, cork, cutin, suberin, So, one more word is there called lignin that we already have read in earlier part of this presentation. So, go through these terms as easily and closely you can go through it and make note of it, and have a nice time. Enjoy your days. Thank you.